It's an In the Money podcast from KeenelandSelect.com for the Grade 1 Belmont Stakes. I'm Todd Leach, along with Keeneland's Director of Simulcasting, Jim Goodman, and we would urge you to check out our other podcast for this Saturday, which covers all of the Grade 1 undercard races at Belmont on just a spectacular day of racing. But, Jim, for now, for this one, we will focus on race 11, which is the Belmont Stakes. It's the second leg of a late pick four. It's the final leg of an all-stakes pick four. Final leg of a all-stakes pick six. So a lot of things to look at that we'll talk about in the undercard. But let's just talk about the Belmont Stakes. Where did you go? Are you going to try to beat California Chrome?
Well, you know, I sound like a broken record. I've been on California Chrome from the beginning. I'm not going to get off it now. It's hard to sit here and do a handicapping show and pick the favorite. It gets rather boring, and nobody wants to hear us pick the favorite. But we've gone through this 12 times, I guess, in the last 36 years, where there's been a horse that had a chance to win the Triple Crown. And I thought Smarty Jones was going to win it. I thought Real Quiet was going to win it. I knew Big Brown was going to win it. Everybody else did too, but he had the problem and pulled him up in the top of the stretch. So we've gone through this a lot. A lot of people are talking about the pedigree of California Chrome doesn't lend itself to a mile and a half, but in this day and age, whose pedigree does? So he's done everything they've asked him to do, hoping he's got enough left. They haven't worked him too hard. I think he's got enough positional speed to get in the right shot, in the right position. Top of the stretch is going to tell the story, whether Victor pulls the trigger too early like Stuart Elliott did on Smarty Jones, or whether he can be patient and the horse has got enough push-button ability to just go ahead and put the field away, and I think he does. I think he's going to win it. I think we're going to have our first Triple Crown winner in 36 years. Commanding Curve is my second choice. I hit the exacta in the Derby. It's not going to pay $340 here, but I think Commanding Curve comes into the race very well. The 5 weeks rest probably is going to suit him very well. I don't think he should have come back in the Preakness, and he didn't. So he was the best of the rest in the Derby, and I'm going to go for him second. And Medal Count is my long shot. Medal Count did not have a good trip in Louisville, and he's had the 5 weeks off. He's in the one hole here, but it doesn't really hurt him. I think he can get up in the exacta. I'm going to wheel California Chrome on top with those two plus a couple other horses. Wicked Strong, I think, is going to be really strongly bet. Oh, no pun intended, but I'm not sure that he's as good as a lot of people think he is. I left him off. I had him in my Derby trifectas and supers. I didn't hit the try. I hit a try, but not the super. But he's got the 5 weeks rest. Everybody's going to be trying to beat California Chrome. I just think he's the best horse, and I'm going to take California Chrome hopefully all the way to the bank.
This is a race in which I will gleefully be wrong if California Chrome wins it. I'm going to pick against him. And yet the reason I say that is, well, you know, how could you be unhappy if you don't cash? Is I think I can play a relatively small, say, exacta box or try box, and if a couple of my horses hit in the top 2 or maybe even the top 3, it'll pay really well without having to bet much, and then I can include California Chrome in, you know, pick fours and those kinds of things, and still have a shot if he wins, because I think, you know, all the reports about his training, it's just hard to dismiss him. But I just think the mile and a half could be the undoing, and the fact that, I guess for me it comes back to, it seems like everything has gone his way for a while now, and I just keep thinking there's gonna be a point at which, whether it's the distance or a pace scenario or, you know, pressure from another horse, something's gonna create some adversity, and I haven't seen him deal with that yet. So I'm gonna bet on somebody else for the value. And again, certainly could you know, he could win it for fun, and as I'll gladly celebrate the end of the Triple Crown drought. But I'm going to pick Wicked Strong. Actually, he was a horse I like second in the Derby. I like the fact that he's got an old school trainer like Jimmy Jerkins, who Alan Jerkins' son should have a good feel for getting a horse ready for a mile and a half. And if this horse has got it in him genetically, then I can't imagine that Jerkins will have him short. And he worked a mile, which I liked, I think, on May 25th. I like that kind of a work for a race like the Belmont. And he came back with a really sharp, fast work on the Belmont training track, which is usually slower than the main track. And he still worked, I think, 59 flat for 5 furlongs. So I think he's sitting on a big race. Whether or not that's good enough, we'll see. But I'm going to pick Wicked Strong, and then I will just use him in exacta boxes, make him the key horse, and use him with Tonalist, California Chrome, General A-Rod, and Ride on Curlin. And I think for another bet for either like a try or a super, I'll use Wicked Strong and California Chrome on the top line and make General A-Rod the key horse. He should have been second or third in the Preakness, third easily. If the filly, who shouldn't have been in the Preakness, hadn't have stopped in front of him, he'd have easily been third and might have been second. And I think he's the horse that might get overlooked and could be a decent price to throw in there for an on the board finish. So he's the long shot I'll probably play around with. But Wicked Strong, and when I'm doing horizontal wagers, I'll use Wicked Strong, California Chrome, and maybe Tonalist too. I don't know. It might be Ride on Curlin if I go to a third or fourth horse, but it's definitely it's Wicked Strong and then California Chrome next and horizontals for me. So Wicked Strong's my pick. Jim's going with California Chrome. So hopefully you guys will find the right way to bet it using some of our insight and some of your own. And best of luck on the Belmont Stakes. And then don't forget to listen to our podcast for the full day of racing with some great grade ones that we're going to talk about on the undercard for our other podcast for KeenelandSelect.com.